I always love to welcome guests that I've had the pleasure of getting to know more personally. And as part of our Orgasmic Birth Practitioner program, it's always a unique opportunity to go deeper into preparing our clients for pleasure and how that often entails healing, removing barriers, and expanding our own pleasures. My guest today had her own incredible orgasmic births and has a wealth of wisdom in the ways she's helping prepare others for ecstatic orgasmic birth and a ceremony of welcoming your baby into the world. Hi, I'm Debra Pascali-Bonaro, founder and director of Orgasmic Birth and host of the Orgasmic Birth podcast. It is such an honor today to welcome Rebecca Rivers. She's an inspired and creative mama of 3 girls. She was trained and certified in hypnotherapy and life coaching and has mentored with Anahata Graceland for more than 10 years. She's worked as a quantum hypnotherapist and a full spectrum doula, serving women and folks through the most important life transitions that support their unfolding as divine creators in the world. She's taken courses with me and the co-author of Orgasmic Birth, midwife Elizabeth Davis. She has proudly birthed all 3 of her girls from home with orgasmic births and is really stoked to share the wealth with others who also want their births to be peak experiences in their lives. Rebecca uses state-of-the-art hypnosis and coaching tools to cultivate the optimal internal environment for the birthing journey and the journey into parenthood. She supports the well-being of the whole family with awareness and education to bring about empowered choices. Rebecca combines her understanding of the transmutational nature of humans with her compassionate care and support to help create a sacred and nourishing ritual of welcoming for the baby and the whole family with balance and harmony. And those are her greatest joy. And Rebecca, you are an incredible joy. I am just so honored to welcome you
Thank you.
today.
Oh, thank you. It's really a pleasure to be with you and to be able to share about this. It just matters so much in our lives as women to have these experiences that are meaningful, that we're proud of, and that, really help to grow us as humans. And so I love this field, and I've gained so much in being with you and learning from you. So it's fun to be able to give back and share some of my story. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca. And I know you say that you had, 3 very joyful, pleasurable, ecstatic, orgasmic births. And I'm wondering if you can kind of take us back to that first pregnancy and then
Yes,
share some of your birth stories, what they were like.
I would love to. Um, so with my first, she just turned 17, so it was a while ago, but it's so fresh. The memory is so fresh. And I think it was because it was a peak experience in my life. Um, but I remember I had seen 4 births when I got pregnant with my 17-year-old Gigi, and I'd seen 2 hospital births that were not as great, and then I'd seen 2 home births that were, um, just rich and sacred, and so I had an idea of what I wanted, and I was taking a, refresher course in hypnosis, so I was like, "I'm gonna make my own script and really apply it because this is the more I learned about birth, the more I learned, hey, getting into the parasympathetic nervous system is really the way to go. And because I'd had those experiences of the mamas at home just more relaxed, I knew I wanted to be at home. And so I really did apply myself and I took a hypno birthing class and that sort of thing. But I loved the process. I did coaching with my mentor, Anahata Graceland, and she did hypnosis with me too. So we did this process of really like getting to know my baby in the womb, which was just mind blowing. It still blows my mind because some of what I knew about her when I was pregnant with her is still like being revealed in her life. Like I'll see that, I'm like, I remember that in the womb, or remember that sensation, or that kind of understanding of her character. So I think the kind of the inquiry and the process of deepening with the baby as you're preparing to greet them in birth, just is such a richness to your relationship that you can then have with a newborn. I had this wonderful, wonderful birth, and then postpartum was harder. And I just think, thank goodness I had such a great experience with birthing, because, it's hard enough. You don't want to go into it with a trauma like I see, some of my clients have with other births and stuff. So anyways, I was really grateful to be able to like deepen in myself in preparation for birthing her, to do some rituals that help me get to know her intuitively. And then, and in her labor, I knew I have an intentional community that I've been growing and learning with. So I said, I want everybody to come. And my midwife said, they kind of say add 1 hour for every guest you invite. And I'm like, okay, that's a long birth, but I'm going to do it, you know. And it wasn't a very long birth at all for a first birth. But I also had prepared my guests really well as to like what energy I wanted them to bring. So we had like some chanting. We had this beautiful like Hawaiian Hawaiian chanting music, and like the dolphins, and like it was just like a very sacred container for me. And I was able to breathe and relax through the contractions. And I just remember it being such an empowering experience to be able to be like, oh, okay, this is my body, and I can allow it to go through these sensations without experience them as like something against me. And there's a moment I like to share about in my childbirth classes that is sort of a marked difference between like being in fear and then kind of releasing and surrendering to the process. It was I started throwing up, and I think it was close to transition. I didn't realize that throwing up was part of the process for some reason. And I was like, is something wrong? Am I going into sickness, or should I worry? And then it was kind of the same time the contractions were getting harder. So I started to kind of feel like this is happening to me. And my mentor was just really great. She was acting as a doula in that moment. She said, remember, you're doing this. And it was such a great pivot, because at the same time, my midwife said, throwing up is great. So I kind of relieved myself from the idea that something was wrong. And I was able to relax into like, oh, these rhythms are my rhythms because I'm wanting to birth and I'm prepared for this. That's the other thing. She said, you're prepared, you know what to do. So I went in deeper in myself and tracked when the contractions were going to come, and then breathed into them. And that was that pivot there, from being kind of afraid, like, and what's wrong, to like, oh yeah, it's me and mine, and I'm driving here, has been really a good, like, a touchstone in my life. When I'm feeling like things are happening to me, it's like, no, no, I'm driving the ship. Um, and so that was a powerful moment. And then I caught her, and it was just like so exquisite, like the feeling of being able to like let go of tension and allow, and thematically, I think with that first baby, like the other thing that my mentor said to me was like, make way for her. And still, as a mother, it's like I'm making way for her. Like, she is who she is. She's not me. She doesn't have to do life like me. And she could, if she like shines and thrives and surpasses me by a million light years, great. Because, like that's what I want for her. And and when you step into mothering, right, it's not about you at some point, and it is still about you, but it's like really making way for that being in their fullness to shine and thrive. So that kind of cue, as I was like, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes from pushing, was also like really beautiful. Um, and from there, I just, loved birth, wanted more and more of birth. So with my second, right, I was like, I had just like, I decided to go to a Tantra retreat right when she was due. So I had a backup midwife in Maui, right? And was really this was more of like owning my body and like really being like sensually awakened in the pregnancy, because I felt more at home. Like I knew I could do birth well, and um I was like strong in myself and like danced through the birth, and I had people like holding me in the water, like moving me around in a little cocoon with the baby when I was like about to give birth. And so it just was like a very like lush type of pregnancy with her, and then birth. um like where again, it was community where I had like, I don't know, maybe 20 people there. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah, and just like candles and chanting and dancing, and um just it's like such a rich and sacred time, you know and it all just unfolded so beautifully. And in that experience, it was more like like I felt like I went through like a tunnel with her as she was coming out of the birth canal. And I can't describe it all that well, but it was like time was changed, and it was like super super slow, and I felt like my body was held in a different way, like kind of um it was really like, that in some of the birth stories that they talk about like going through the tunnel, or you kind of go to the other side of the veil or something like that and collect your baby. That one, that birth in particular, when she was coming through the tunnel, I felt like that, when she was coming through the birth canal. Again, I caught her, and then that was just like just gorgeous, and the energy in the room, and the the presence and witness, and then just all of it very, very sweet, and sort of affirming in my own body, like what it can do and the strength of it. And postpartum was easier at that point. Like nursing was like nothing. And then I'll go just kind of skip to my third birth, which is like unplanned pregnancy. I was like totally over it in terms of like two kids are plenty, right? you know, and it was like I definitely had like some like challenge, like how am I don't know if I want a mother again. And at that point I'd become a doula already, and my business was born in Ecstasy Birthing. And I was like, what if I have the worst birth ever? And like it's so painful, and I like have to rethink everything. um so and I was tired, and I think my thyroid was funky and all of that. So it was definitely like another level of experience of, number one, surrender into like, yeah, this is happening, and it's gonna be okay, and I will survive as the person I'm like driving to be, you know? And so I think another sort of thematic element in this pregnancy and birth was like owning, like I don't want to slow down my doula business. I don't want to um like do the all day long as a mom, and like be in charge of everything. I had to think outside the box in terms of like getting some good helpers, pumping when I went to births, and like what still sustains me as a human being where I'm at in my journey as a kind of older woman. I was 40 at the time. I thought I was going through perimenopause, but then that shifted with the pregnancy. So it was, it was a little more involved, and I had, and it continues to be, with this daughter, like, how can I still like shuck the role of mommy and be who I am? And not shuck the role, but like balance like the care of her and helping her thrive with also like I need and what I want. And my passions and projects are important, and how do I kind of make it all happen, you know, with respect of all the pieces, and I think that's it's a challenging thing for any mother. And the more we can kind of own without shame or judgment, like, what are our needs? Like, at that point I was very clear. If I didn't get like enough alone time, I was a mess. So certain things like that. But that birth was also, it was great. It was like I labored in bed all night and just like had all these beautiful, beautiful dreams of in between the contractions of my daughter. It was like the elven Glen of the Lord of the Rings type of environment I was seeing her in. I felt like I met her spirit kind of through that dreaming in early labor. And I'd taken a homeopathy because I was like, I'm ready to birth her because I'm going to get on the airplane in about a week. I didn't want to go on the airplane with a 3-day-old baby. I wanted to go on the airplane with a 8-day-old baby or something like that. But so I'd taken a homeopathy and my water broke, and then all night I labored um, with very intermittent contractions, but I knew they were strong because it was my third labor at that point, and I was like, no, these are good. And then at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, okay, people can wake up. you know? And again, I called over and I had, called everyone, and had my family and my consciousness family join me. And it was again a big old birth with sunlight and water birthing, at noon. So, the other ones had been at night, and that was like sacred and precious too, but like beautiful, just beautiful light and sweetness and more like sound. And this one I was like if I wasn't like so loud, then it did hurt. But if I was like just fully like, okay, I'm gonna go louder, and then it was like, okay, that's where it feels good. And I caught her, and it was easier postpartum than I thought. And things were fine, and I was like, I don't have to like renege on my name of born in ecstasy.
I love that. And
Yeah, thanks.
Rebecca, what beautiful stories. And I really appreciate too how you felt so safe and private, right? We've talked a lot in
Yeah.
our work that people need to set that stage. And you did with
Mhm.
a broader group, as you said, that
Yeah.
intentional community and family and that.
Yeah.
What do you think made that possible? Do you have any tips
Mhm.
for people that are thinking, well, I have people we want to bring, but like you also said, midwives often say an hour for every person.
Mhm. Yep.
How did you bridge that?
Yes, thanks. That's a good question, because if it would have been just like my blood family and not my consciousness family, I don't think I could have done it in the same way. Because it's like people come in with their pictures of birth, right? So it's like it's this energetic cauldron, right? So if you have people there worrying about birth, what I've noticed with my doula clients, right? It's like, maybe don't invite your mom because she had these terrible experiences and she's a worrier, and you get worried when she's around. So you kind of have to balance like what energy you're bringing in. But because I'd done ritual, I'd done like enough meditation and been present with my intentional community, I knew they would be part of that container of energy that was building. It's like I had a bigger group of midwives and doulas around me that energetically were holding the space for me to be deep inside. And I told my midwife that I'm like, I think you'll find that it's not quite the same as what you often get, because I have done this work of like learning to be in a self-referred process in with these lovely people that are my, family, though not blood. And then I just knew that my other family with some education could join in without kind of sabotaging the energy, because there was enough presence. So, and I did direct people too, like, I don't want you to chit chat about other random things. I don't want you to, if you feel impatient, go and come back. Or, and I had good food, and I had, with the first one, I'm like, it could be days. So I had like games they could play, lots of food, like all this stuff, you know, and lots of, instruction about how to do it. But I think that also helps people to know, what to expect so that they don't bring their worry to it. Because if they think something's wrong, if it's taking too long, or if they go into like thinking, that, you know, birth is scary, it's just easy to bring that energy. And then if you're not aware, it can sort of get in the way at times. I see that even with midwives and doulas, like if they're worried about the thing or think something's wrong, that can sort of creep in there as an energy that is not helpful. So the more we can kind of know, like, you know, I'm doing what fits for me, and that deepening will help the birth happen, right? Then,
Yes.
and sometimes it is asking someone to leave the room, or saying I just need space alone, or I just want to be in the bathroom or with my partner alone. That can, I see that with my clients, just helping at times.
Yeah.
Because yeah, energy matters with each other, and we're so open wide with birth that we want the environment to just be lush, like really sacred.
Beautifully said. What great tips for everyone listening that's contemplating, who to bring into their
Yeah.
birth support team. That was really beautiful. So thank you. And I love a lot of the words you shared as you wove in your story that people shared with you. So we really could hear how their energy was really present and really supportive. So that was
Yeah.
beautiful. You
Yeah.
al-
Yeah.
you also say and talk about that birth is a ritual of welcoming both yourself as a mom and your baby into the
Yeah.
world and to your family. And I loved even hearing in your story how you even, talked about that connection in pregnancy and birth with you and your baby and the space that you made. Can you talk about some of
Yeah.
that and ideas that people can do?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love suggesting to my clients to, like, even just make an altar of who is this being that's going to come through. Like, and you can start with just a black cloth on a shelf or a white cloth on a shelf, and start with very little items, but just intuitively let yourself be guided to, like, oh, this almonds might relate to them in some way, or this symbol or piece of art, just kind of let yourself intuitively find like where on that altar things may go. Or maybe there's not a lot at first, but as you start listening, it's just like the act of inquiry and curiosity can help you understand things about your baby from before they're even born. And that sort of bonding has been shown to like help you postpartum feel more bonded, and want to, be more lovingly engaged with them. Because it is sometimes like, who is this person? Like postpartum, like they're
Yeah.
so needy, and I don't, I don't necessarily like that. I see clients go through all sorts of ranges of experience, but the more we can do to kind of open that doorway of understanding and also let them know, like, hey, your timing matters. We're not going to necessarily like induce without reason, or like, like just being aware of like the environment they're born into. I think the first I saw four births before I birthed. Two of them were the hospital births. One of them, my nephew was just set on a warming table, and I was just so aware, like if I was him coming into this new place, the energy in the room is totally fear, and he's separated from his mother. No one's even talking to him, and he just came out, like, and so I was able to pick him up and greet him and say, "Welcome to the world." But like that sort of made an impression on me, like these beings from wherever they're coming from, right, are arriving on the scene. But the more like that we can kind of have awareness into what they're arriving into, and some like consideration for who they are beyond form, it's just really precious, because I think it helps us to witness them before they're able to like express themselves well with words and different concepts. So I did that with my kids too, and I got to participate in that with other babies coming through, and um it's just so special to be able to like really not, I mean, they're not blank slates. You can see when they arrive, they are who they are. When the moment you become a parent, it's like, oh, this this is, of me, but it is not me. That they come with certain energies and stuff, but just to like tune into them in that respect, um, and also yourself and how you relate to them is a beautiful preparation to, I think, make that transition more easeful and just rich.
Beautiful. I have to say, as you were talking, I was thinking, well, I wish I knew this many years ago
Yeah.
because it so resonated with me. I could almost like feel the ribbons and things I would have
Yeah.
wanted to say and hold and invite, right? So,
Yep.
for everyone listening, what a blessing that you're getting this wisdom if you're pregnant or thinking about pregnancy, or for doulas to
Hmm.
birth this forward. So, I want to ask you, we had this beautiful time together. You're still our part of our orgasmic birth practitioner
Yes.
community.
Yeah.
You're a practitioner now. What was the class like for you? I always love to just know, how did
Mhm.
that fit into all that you're already offering or maybe helping you and as you're birthing
Mhm.
things forward?
Yeah. It was such a gift to be in the room of folks that really love birth and the whole journey, the transition, the mystery, the sacredness of it. But from all around the world, like the international flair of the group was so wonderful, and just inspiring. I noticed every time I went to class, and I still feel like that, like, oh, I should just join in on a class, because every class was, the energy was so alive, and the sort of the spark of creativity was there, and the warmth of the care of women and their and families and their transition to birthing, so much like woven into the environment, and really also like challenging some of the status quo, which is really important, and seeing how things are done in different cultures, um, but also kind of the opening to and welcoming of like the feminine principle and balances that are important in pregnancy and birth. And um your holding of the space, Deborah, is always just top notch. There's a way you open for everything to arrive, like wisdom. You're like, oh, there's wisdom there. I'm gonna ask a little more and bring that out. And like that. that sort of non-judgmental, really open, curious environment is just so helpful in general, and specifically for anyone, you know, wanting to like be a person helping with births, whether it's a midwife or doula, or even just going for your own birth. I would recommend it because it is our birthright. It's like birth is not this, something to get through and suffer through. And so often in our culture, it's that's the what you think, that's the status quo of what birth is. So it's really, like this container that you hold to say, hey, birth can be so different, matters so much. And as you're a birth worker, that you can give that to your individual clients. So I definitely think, that the class is just phenomenal. And if you're considering it, definitely take it, because you will expand your mind and your body in ways you have no idea about. Yeah.
I'm so touched, Rebecca. It has been such a joy. And now
Oh,
to watch you incorporate that, you were already doing so many amazing things. Now you're continuing to
yeah.
expand and our community continues to support you. But can you tell
Yeah.
people where they can find you and about some of
Yeah.
your offerings?
Mm-hmm. So recently I've been offering more full spectrum doula work, which it was a sort of natural occurrence because I have these clients now that have babies that are, 10 or 12 years old, or, a few different kids, and now they're dealing with menopause, or now they're like, how do I transition to having the kids at school full time? Or my my parents are passing away, or, dealing with illness, or going through changes in our relationship. Like, everything is worthy of like the care and attention that a doula can give. Like, these transitions in our life are massive. And birth is like the one of the biggest ones, birth and death, just very much deserving of care, attention, loving, companioning around. But so yeah, now I'm doing that along with teaching birth hypnosis classes, and um, being a doula, working with postpartum clients, but then also leading a women's circle, because I've done a women's circle for years. And at some point I just realized, like, why am I not offering that to my clients as well? You go out postpartum and it's so isolating at times, and we need each other. We used to be more like community oriented as a culture, and now we're sort of more separate. And it's like you go have your baby and then, okay, good luck. And it's like, no, like, why do you think we have all this postpartum depression? We're too isolated. So like, this women's circle is not just for postpartum moms, but it is for women who want to be intentional and to develop their leadership and mastery together. So it's a real focus on like self-development and entrepreneurial skills, and projects and passions. But whether we're moms or not, we often sort of need that environment, just like a doula can provide, the environment to really grow and thrive in. And so yeah, that's been a fun sort of newer development in my professional life. But yeah, you can find me at borninecstasy.com. And also on started to do a little bit of TikTok, and I'm on Instagram a little bit, and Facebook, and Born in Ecstasy again. Because really it's like, we can have these births that are ecstatic, but we're also birthing ourselves all the time. Like, we always have new chapters in our life that are worthy of like this intentionality, the care, the the nourishment and support of others, so that we can go through these transitions with ease, and some guidance and support and companioning again.
Yeah, beautiful. And Rebecca, are do you want to say where in the world you are? And these are also
Mm,
virtual offerings,
they
right?
are.
So people can
Mhm.
join you anywhere. Okay.
Yes, they are virtual, and I'm also in Olympia, Washington, so outside of Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those that are local, they can be
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
with you, but for anyone anywhere in the world, right? The virtual world has
Yep.
really opened it up so you can companion and support. So I have a feeling many listeners will want to
Oh,
be in touch with you. So know that we
thank
will
you.
put all of Rebecca's information and links in the show notes. So wherever you're listening today, definitely when you have a minute, go into show notes and you can click over to her website, her social media. And I thank you so much, Rebecca, for
Oh,
being with us and sharing your wisdom and passion.
my pleasure. Thank you so much. I just love all the podcasts you have. And it's a special honor to be able to be on it too. So I'm so grateful for you, really.
Oh, thank you. And thank you,
Mm,
listeners. We do this
yeah.
because we're grateful for you too. And we always love to hear from you. We always love to hear what you're taking away from it. And maybe you want to be on the podcast one day if you've had a pleasurable, challenging, amazing, empowering birth. Please send us a message. We're always open to talking with you and hearing your story too. So thank you again, and everyone. We hope you'll join us in the next episode of the Orgasmic Birth Podcast.